And Emma, what Rob talks about there is something that, I see quite a lot of, and that is the diversity of roles across an organization or the industry. Rob, you're clearly going to have, analysts who have a particular skill set, but what you talk about there is, communication with customers. You don't necessarily need to have a particular qualification for that. You've got the process building in the background to make sure that you're always on the front foot. And so, Emma, we see, these job adverts that are demanding 5 years skill set for junior analysts. We see a lot of talk about, pen testers and security analysts, but there's a huge amount of other roles within the industry that would really benefit from their kind of competencies, should we say. And Rob's just demonstrated a couple of things there. Do you see that as well?
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the big problems with the cybersecurity sector is that people, including the employers that don't have a lot of experience, think of just a cybersecurity person that will do all those things. Often the people who are really good at the in-depth technical side are not very good at communications. And, the people who you want to communicate with your customers are probably not the in-depth technical people. And so you need a wide variety of people to work in the sector. And people are put off because they have one image of what a cybersecurity person is. And that's usually very repeated in films, and it's not always a very positive image. And I think people are put off from coming into the industry, whereas it's a very varied industry that needs lots of all the different skills and welcomes people in. And so I think that's something that needs to be addressed. But also, it's really important, and Rob will reflect this as well, that we have all kinds of people from all different backgrounds, all different cultures, all different genders to work in the industry, because the attackers are completely diverse. The attackers are from all over the world, every kind of background you can imagine, and they will be thinking of the best way to attack organizations. The only way we can combat that is by having a completely diverse workforce. And that's something that isn't really being reflected at the moment.
So Rob, do you concur with that? I mean, you've clearly got a diverse set of people within your organization, people thinking differently. And is that brought a lot of value to your organization?
Yeah, I'll just give you a little bit of history of how we recruit people. So back in 2013 to 15, we used a lot of the government-sponsored academies, the SAN Cyber Academies, to find talent, which is basically the competitions you saw that were on the news and things like that, where we sort of were able to sort of purchase en masse cyber analysts who had different backgrounds. So we kind of started the business by acquiring a big set of talent. And then we had to kind of mix and match them with people who knew how to do IT and project management and service delivery. And then kind of growing the business over these years. We've now got a business in Australia, for example. We're finding exactly the same problem there, probably just a bigger skills gap, to be honest. So in about 2017-18, we bumped into Emma and what was then the community SOC, which is specifically around neurodiversity, recruiting people who are unemployed typically because of these differences. And then we started to create a scheme where we'd employ them part-time initially, and then we'd train them up and they'd basically start doing our internal security, and then they'd be moving up the ladder into SOC analysts or whatever other roles they had. So we've been able to look in at diversity, specifically at neurodiversity, because that seemed like a good area to recruit, and we're always looking for new areas for skills. That's what this is about for me. It's about finding the right skill sets, and we use the sort of, what we say is how can we solve complex problems if we all think the same. And it's definitely the same with cyber attacks. You need that mixed mindsets. So we've gone the neurodiverse route in terms of how we recruit, and we've had a lot of success with that program.